Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 117 for you guys today. And to kick off the Combat Series this week, I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight taking place in the sport of boxing between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. It's a legacy fight. Canelo Alvarez will be defending all four of his undisputed super middleweight titles against Terence Crawford, who is daring to be great, climbing up 2 weight classes, and both of these fighters will be fighting in that beautiful Las Vegas Raiders stadium. So I'll be sharing my following storylines heading into this big monumental fight in the sport of boxing. Storyline number 1, legacy. That word legacy defines what this fight is all about. Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford arguably have been the two best fighters in the sport of boxing since Floyd Mayweather has retired from the sport nearly 10 years ago. These two have just been dominant since then. And the winner of this fight will have the status and claim themselves to be the best fighter since Floyd Mayweather has retired. Because we're talking about two top five pound for pound greats in the sport of boxing fighting over all the glitz, all the glamours, all the titles at the super middleweight division. The win here for Canelo Alvarez makes his legacy look even better. A win for Terence Crawford, he gets the biggest win of his boxing career, and he could possibly ride off to the sunset being the first ever male fighter to be a 3-time undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes. It doesn't get much bigger than this. That's why the word legacy truly defines this fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford heading into Saturday night in the sport of boxing. Next storyline is, can Terence Crawford climb up 2 weight classes and defeat Canelo Alvarez? This is, and I'm going to get into this towards the end of this segment, but this is not something that's impossible to do in the sport of boxing. We've seen some all-time greats climb up 2 weight classes, daring to be great, to knock off some all-time greats. So this is not an impossible thing that we're asking out of Terence Crawford. If you're a Terence Crawford fan out there watching and listening, this is actually a realistic thing that could be done. And if Terence Crawford, that started his boxing career all the way at 135, if he could climb up from starting at 135, fighting all the way at 168, and defeat one of the best fighters, the best fighter to ever fight at the super middleweight division, this would be something that would define Terence Crawford's legacy forever. Those are my storylines. Enough of that. Let's get to the tail of the tape here. Starting off with the challenger, Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford has 41 victories, 0 losses to his boxing resume, has 31 victories come away of knockout. He's a former 4-division world champion in his boxing career, former undisputed champion at the super lightweight division, former undisputed champion at the welterweight division, currently the reigning defending WBA super welterweight champion, a top 3 pound for pound great in the sport of boxing today, stands at 5'8" with a reach of 74 inches. Then I look at the champion, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez has 63 victories, 2 losses, 2 draws to his boxing resume. He has 39 victories come away of knockout. Is also a 4-division world champion in his boxing career, 2-time undisputed champion at the super middleweight division, currently the reigning defending super middleweight champion, a pound for pound great, stands at 5'7" with a reach of 70 inches. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just getting goosebumps talking about how legendary these fighters have been. This is what it's all about in the sport of boxing, the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. But when you look at the height and you look at the reach, it's the smaller man that's moving up 2 weight classes in Terence Crawford that actually has the height and the reach advantage over the champion Canelo Alvarez. So we'll see if the height and the reach plays a factor in this fight for either the champion or the challenger when we get to the fight Saturday night. But these are my final game plans that I have for these fighters to follow if they want to walk out of Vegas with all 4 of the super middleweight titles, and you can say all 5, counting that Ring Magazine title that will be on the line as well. Starting off with the challenger, Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford has to fight in the range. And when you look at Terence Crawford, for someone that's followed most of his career, and seeing the way out he fights. When he fights in range, it's hard to figure him out in that boxing ring. He hardly loses rounds when he fights in range. And when he's fighting in the range, he has a great time touching up his opponents fighting in the range. And also, this allows Terence Crawford to fight well in the distance, because if you're in the range, me and you guys out there watching and listening, if me and you are fighting in the range and I keep touching you up with pumping a jab or landing the 1-2 combinations, I'm touching you up fighting in range and fighting in the distance. This is how Terence Crawford, this is bread and butter, and this is how he performs well in the sport of boxing. He gets going with the rhythm offensively. And I think also fighting in the range, he could also target the body to slow down Canelo Alvarez in this fight. This could also possibly frustrate Canelo Alvarez in making some mistakes, some critical mistakes in that boxing ring, could lead to Terence Crawford getting some points and wowing the judges on the judges' scorecard. So I think that's going to be very important for Terence Crawford to fight in the range. Next, I think Terence Crawford should fight in different lateral movements. When I mean in different lateral movements, Terence Crawford should be fighting in different angles, not being versatile, or not being someone that is out there to get hit, standing and being a pedestrian, standing in one space that Canelo Alvarez can reach to him. No, I think he should fight in different lateral movements. He has the huge advantage in footwork. I think Canelo Alvarez, as great as a fighter he is, he doesn't have the footwork that Terence Crawford possesses, and he's the slower fighter. Terence Crawford also has the agility and the speed to his advantage. So I think he should have the huge footwork advantage. And Canelo Alvarez, if you guys have watched his past 3 fights, he has not fought well cutting off the ring, which is a problem to me, because if you can't cut off the ring against a caliber fighter like Terence Crawford, you could be in a world of trouble. So if Canelo tries to cut the ring off, this is where Terence Crawford should try to get comfortable boxing on the back foot at times, fighting in different lateral movements, so Canelo Alvarez has a hard time to figure him out, or Canelo Alvarez evidently has a hard time to land the punches on Terence Crawford. So I think this should be a huge advantage for Terence Crawford, a pivotal game plan that Bo Mack should have orchestrated for Terence Crawford fighting in different lateral movements. And last but not least, win the counter-punching battle. Terence Crawford, I just said, he has the speed, the agility, the quickness to his advantage. I think Canelo is just a little bit slower than Terence Crawford, but I think Terence Crawford, his key to winning this fight, one of the big keys, is winning the counter-punching battle. He's the faster fighter. When the fight happens in the inside, they're going to be fighting in the inside. Don't think that Terence Crawford is going to be fighting off the back foot and running this fight. This is not a Jermell Charlo accepting this fight. This is not a Will Skull accepting this fight, looking to fight for 12 rounds and have a moral victory. No, this guy is coming in to win. So I think when the fight comes in the inside, when it gets physical, Terence Crawford needs to be the faster fighter, win the counter-punching battle. When this happens, I think Terence Crawford in the inside should land the lead hand, use his lead hand, the jab, land punches and flurries, and the pull counter. If you guys don't know what a pull counter is, that's me pulling back and boom, hitting you with a counter shot. So I think if he could mix in all those things, the more you make Canelo Alvarez stop and make him reset with his footwork, the current footwork that we're seeing out of Canelo Alvarez, this could throw Canelo Alvarez off balance. If Canelo and Terence Crawford are in the inside, going back and forth, Crawford uses the lead hand, uses the jab, punches and flurries, the pull counter. Canelo not having his feet set, I'm not saying that Crawford's going to land a knockdown, but him not having his feet set worries me for Canelo Alvarez if he has to stop and reset to try to get back into offensive rhythm. Because if he's going to try to land the powerful shot on Terence Crawford, if that's his key to victory, that's not going to work. So I think Terence Crawford should follow these 3 game plans. And if he can follow them, he has a chance of pulling off an upset and becoming a 3-time undisputed champion in the sport of boxing. Now, with the champion Canelo Alvarez, game plans for him, I think he should put the pressure on Terence Crawford early. Make Terence Crawford work in the early rounds. We know Terence Crawford really isn't a fighter that starts off slow, let alone lose rounds. If Canelo Alvarez can put the pressure on him, fight coming forward early, walk down Terence Crawford, make him intimidated, make Terence Crawford second guess of what to do next, put the pressure on him, make him work in the early rounds, try to tire him out, keep coming forward, try to pin Terence Crawford in tight spaces in the ring. If he could pin him up on the ropes, that's a great game plan for Canelo Alvarez, to pin Terence Crawford up on the ropes like he's Muhammad Ali and go to work on him, going upstairs, downstairs. And let's get this out the way. Canelo Alvarez is clearly the weight bully. Terence Crawford has no experience at 160 or 168. And Canelo Alvarez is the greatest super middleweight champion of all time. He's undefeated at this division. He's a two-time undisputed champion. So he should put the pressure on Terence Crawford, intimidate him, and look to pin him up on the ropes and establish his power, establish his will. And he has a good chance of defeating Terence Crawford. Which leads me to the next game plan. Get in the rhythm early. If Canelo Alvarez is going to wait until round 6 through 12 to turn it up, or round 7 through 12 to turn it up, that's going to, and you're relying on a knockout or some knockdowns, that's not going to be a key ingredient to defeating Terence Crawford. So I think he has to get in the rhythm early. He has to start off fast and not play catch-up, possibly on the judges' scorecards. Plus, I'm unbiased. I like both fighters, but I'm just going to say it. Turkey Al-Sheikh is clearly Terence Crawford's guy. So, if there's a jinx in this, or the judges are paid off for whatever reason, I'm not saying that's going to happen, Canelo Alvarez cannot start off losing rounds and trying to play catch up in the second half of the fight, because you don't know how these judges are really going to score it. So, getting in the rhythm offensively early, landing the jabs, the 1-2 punches, mixing the feints to land the right hook, the devastating right hook that Canelo Alvarez has, or adjust the body with some power shots to slow down Terence Crawford. Canelo Alvarez could be in control of this fight and have some advantages, and possibly be the first guy to knock down Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford has never been knocked down in his boxing career. So I think, again, landing the jabs, the 1-2 punches, mixing in the feints, to come in with the right hook and the uppercut and go downstairs to the body, slow down Terence Crawford, who's not used to this weight. This could be a good advantage and a huge advantage for Canelo Alvarez in this fight against Terence Crawford. And last but not least, Canelo cannot afford to gas out. And what I mean by that is Canelo's cardiovascular endurance, his gas tank, has to be great for 12 championship rounds. It cannot fade out. It cannot gas. He cannot fade out, especially in the championship rounds 10, 11, and 12. He cannot afford for that to happen. And I've seen Canelo, his cardio might not be the same anymore. There's a lot of mileage that has been put on that gas tank. And the fact that Canelo has fought over 60 pro fights, we're closing in possibly on him getting 70 pro fights before he retires. There's a lot of mileage on that car, on that body. So cardio, he has to be strong the whole fight, apply the pressure, be strong for 12 rounds. That could be his weakness, because I've seen Canelo coast in his last 4 fights coasted to the finishes, not trying to get the knockout, not trying to score any more knockdowns. I've seen it. I've seen it when he's fought Jermell Charlo, late 2023. I've seen it when he fought Jaime Mugina, Cinco de Mayo weekend 2024. I've seen it last year around this time when he fought Edgar Berlanga. And I just saw it in his last fight against William Skull. Whether you guys want to say William Skull was fighting or not, Canelo, you cherry-picked him, and you picked him to be your dance partner. So, with a training camp of, he could possibly move around that whole fight, you not trying to close out strong, just coasting to the finish in these last 4 fights, that ain't going to cut it against Terence Crawford. So, I think that is one of the weaknesses that I've seen out of Canelo Alvarez. But if he can start off strong, start strong, end strong, cardio is great, apply pressure for 12 rounds, Canelo Alvarez could possibly add another name to his impressive Hall of Fame resume, and an undefeated fighter in Terence Crawford. So, guys, this was a tough pick, and I'm not going to be surprised. It could go either way. I'm going with the upset. I'm going with Terence Crawford to defeat Canelo Alvarez by decision to become a 3-time undisputed champion in 3 different weight classes. The first male boxer to ever accomplish that. I think Terence Crawford would do that Saturday. Now, hear me out. Everybody's saying the weight. But what advantage does Canelo truly have on Terence Crawford other than the weight? Boxing skills? No. Speed and agility? No. Boxing IQ? Debatable, but I think that's a no. And this is not the first time that we've seen this in boxing happen, where fighters have dared themselves to be great, moving up 2 weight classes to defeat a legendary fighter. Sugar Ray Leonard did it when he defeated Marvin Hagler. Manny Pacquiao did it moving up 2 weight classes when he defeated Oscar De La Hoya. So this is not something that's impossible to do. But Canelo, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, he has not been a special fighter in my eyes since 2023. He's cherry-picked opponents for reasons. He's slower. He's not able to cut the ring off anymore. Only headhutting and relying on power. That's the only way I can see Canelo Alvarez defeating Terence Crawford, truthfully. But I think Terence Crawford is going to be the faster fighter, much sharper fighter. I think he's in better shape than Canelo Alvarez. I think he's going to win the counter-punching battle. I think he's going to fight well in range. If you guys have followed Terence Crawford's career and followed his work in his last previous fights, he fights well in the range. He could go to the body to slow down Canelo Alvarez. Not saying that's going to hurt him, but that's going to slow him down. He can fight in different lateral movements. And if Terence Crawford does not take punishment or does not get overwhelmed by Canelo Alvarez's power, he can outbox Canelo Alvarez to a clear decision victory. I think this is going to be a tight fight. May the best man win. Again, legacy defines this fight for both fighters. But I think Terence Crawford is going to be the one with his hand raised and be the first male boxer to become a 3-time undisputed champion in 3 different weight classes. But that's my Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford fight prediction.